All right, we're live. Welcome to another night of my mini series I'm doing for real estate, business, investing, and coronavirus. Tonight, we got Mark on, who's going to be talking to us about what's going on with him, his real estate, his holdings, and stuff like that. So, really excited to dig in and get his opinion and experiences and what he's doing. So, as soon as he comes in, we'll allow him to introduce himself. We're just waiting for the connection. There we go.
There we go.
There it is. Mark, thanks for joining, bud.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Awesome. So you want to kick us off, just, minute, 2 minutes, who you are, your background, stuff like that, so people get a little context.
Yeah. So I live in Costa Mesa, California, which is about halfway between LA and San Diego. Been here all my life, pretty much, all around. Grew up doing construction from a real young age and didn't do well in college for the year that I was there. So
Sure.
I came out of college after a year and was framing houses.
Yeah.
And the battery is going low on my headphones.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
That's all right. Just we'll lose it if there's the echo. Yeah. No worries.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the long and short of it.
Yeah, I think it just flipped over.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Nah, don't worry about it. It's all good.
So ended up doing construction and recession hit, lost everything. I was doing pretty good before that. My wife and I were, and ended up going to a investment club meeting one night, broke as hell, lost the cars, almost lost the house, and just didn't know what to do, and sat next to a guy that was flipping mobile homes.
Oh, wow.
And talked to him, got inspiration. My wife at that time had gone back to Japan for a while just to get away, visit her mom. She's from Japan, and took my youngest son. And I went out the next day and started knocking on the doors of all the managers of all the trailer parks in my fair city and fair area. And ended up, after about 3 days, I found one for $100. And long story short, I flipped it, I sold it for 17 grand. So paid 100 and flipped it for 17, and then just kept doing that. Started buying houses.
When was that?
This was 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 years ago. And then we started flipping a lot of houses and just raising a lot of private money and buying apartments and houses and duplexes and triplexes and things like that, and 1031 exchanging. And so now we have a nice little portfolio. It's not quite as large as yours, but it works well. And we make a pretty decent amount of money off of it every month. And yeah, and we have some vacation rentals in Hawaii, but
awesome.
I don't count those because you can't rent them right now. So
yeah, definitely tough to do that. So the makeup of your portfolio, if you don't mind, just where is it? How big is some of the stuff, et cetera?
We have 43 doors.
Okay.
And so three condos in Hawaii that we vacation rent. And those are pretty profitable when they're full. They're quite profitable in Waikiki. And then we have a second home in Hawaii that we have rented out now. We're only there about 2 or 3 weeks a year, so it's kind of stupid to have it sitting there.
Sure.
So we've got that rented out. We've got a 12-unit apartment complex, a 6-unit, 2 8s, 1, 2, 3, 4 single-family homes, and I'm probably missing a couple of things in there, but just a various amounts of things. And we've purchased everything over the years and paid it down, and we're in a pretty good position on all of it.
That's awesome.
We're getting capital together right now to probably try to double that portfolio here in the next year or two.
Yeah, I mean, now's the opportunity to do it, right?
Yeah.
Are the rest of the units not in Hawaii located by you? Are they out of state? Are they all together?
Good question. They are, we have, all the apartments are in Sacramento.
Okay.
We have duplex and single family homes here in Southern California, and then the condos in Waikiki.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously want to keep this around just what's been going on and what the impact has been and what you're seeing. So can you talk us a little bit through what's been going on for you and your properties, your business, your investments, the last few weeks, how it's evolved, what you guys have done, what's been working, et cetera?
Yeah. So we have a lot of private money. We're kind of, we started off with private money because obviously there was no way in hell we could get a loan.
Yeah.
Coming out of the recession. In fact, it took us 8-9 years before a bank would even talk to us. And at that point, the money we get is cheaper than bank money. So it's, kind of a moot point. But not having the bank to fall back on as far as, mortgage forgiveness or whatever they call it now, it's changed a lot from what they first said it was going to be.
Yeah.
But anyway, we ended up talking to all of our investors and asking them just point blank, we don't know what's going to happen here, but for the next 90 days, there's a good chance you're not going to get paid. And believe it or not, we've got many investors, and all but one of them had no problem with it. They said, we totally understand. And the way I approached them was that, look, guys, we have a choice here. We can use our reserves, and we have quite a lot of reserves, but we can use our reserves up, paying interest every month, not knowing when this is going to end. And this is, of course, before rent hit on April 1st. Or we can use up all that money paying interest, or we can save that money and keep paying property taxes, maintenance, management, all the things to keep your property and your investment safe. And everybody pretty much understood that. And I think had we gone there and just said, hey, look, we can't pay, obviously they wouldn't have liked that.
Yeah.
But update today is that we will actually end up paying interest out. Even though I didn't think we were going to this month, we'll pay interest out.
Awesome.
We were able to get, other than Hawaii, I think we're at 95% at this point.
That's great. So just, if you don't mind, the structure you have in your investors, are they in a debt position or are they in an equity position with you guys?
Debt.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah,
so
we don't do equity with anybody ever.
Gotcha. I thought that was the case, but I just wanted to clarify. So
yeah,
that's interesting that you were in a position to have that kind of forgiveness and, 95% collected. I think a lot of us going into April were very worried about what was going to happen. And then, kind of the way it worked out wasn't as bad as a lot of people thought. I think, also the extra unemployment checks have been a significant backstop for a lot of people. But I'm curious though, if you're in Sacramento and close to you, like for us, our average rent is probably $750 across our portfolio. I would imagine yours has got to be higher than that, correct?
It is, even though we're Class C, all Class C, and maybe even a little bit subclass C.
Okay.
But yeah, our rents average $925.
Okay. I would have imagined it was higher than that. So you guys are also in a very similar position where, most of your tenants are probably going to net out more than they were making beforehand if they go on unemployment, and
no doubt.
And the checks actually come. That's a whole nother thing. So, no, that's good to hear.
Yes.
How many of your tenants have actually fallen victim to needing to file for unemployment or needing extra help or anything like that?
I don't know exactly. I don't have a number on that.
Okay.
I know Jimmy, my man on the ground in Sacramento, is going to send me a report tonight on that.
Gotcha.
And we did have 2 people that volunteered to move out at the end of this month. They paid rent, but they volunteered to move out because they don't think that they're going to have a job. And I thought that was decent of them to do that, because they could have made it tough on us, obviously.
So is there any reason you're not going to go back to them and say, hey guys, just so you know, you should be receiving a $1,200 stimulus check. You should be receiving normal unemployment plus $600 a week. You guys should be able to continue to stay here and pay, assuming this comes in, and we'll work with you until that money comes in. We can accrue it later. Was that a conversation you had? Did you not? Was there any reason?
It's a brilliant idea. And yes, we did. And they may stay. Hence, that's why they paid this month. They wanted to leave this month and we had them stay and pay because they could afford it. They got paid.
Yeah.
And we said, just let's see what happens this month. There's a good chance you'll end up with more money than you had before. So yeah, let's fingers crossed, because even 2 tenants with my portfolio, 2 tenants, I don't feel it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, no, it's a good portion. That's,
what's
that, 4%, give or take, 5%. That's not an insignificant percentage. So,
right.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think right now one of the battles that any landlord is kind of combating is making sure everyone's on the same page of what resources are available, making sure everybody understands their situation, and that the miscommunication or the spread of incorrect information isn't influencing people's choices in the wrong direction. Because I know, like, we had our biweekly calls with our Florida team, and 1 or 2 of the property managers on site still didn't understand how the unemployment checks were going to work. One didn't know about the extra $600, and the other one thought it was only $600. So, 2 out of 6, call it 7, isn't necessarily bad, but these things happen where everybody's got a lot of things to deal with. Making sure that they understand and can properly communicate it to other people is definitely going to be a challenge. And as things change, if you're a tenant too, you're always a little skeptical of your landlord.
Of course.
You're
always
never,
trying to pull a fast one.
You're always thinking, okay, what's their edge? Why are they doing this stuff like that? So it's always tough to get that message across and make sure they understand, like, hey, we're willing to work with you and stuff like that.
I think it's awesome that you brought that up, because so many newer landlords, especially newer investors, don't understand that concept, that it's easier to keep a tenant in there rent free for a couple of months than it is to get a new tenant.
Yeah.
But by the time you get done carpeting and painting and renting and paying we have to pay our landlord a rent up fee, and it's our property manager. So it's quite expensive, as you know.
Yeah.
And
No, we were talking about that. We actually had a podcast episode we recorded earlier today, and it was the same conversation of, keeping that person in and not turning the unit, especially in, when you have single family homes, they're always more expensive to turn than an apartment. They can cost a couple $1,000, where an apartment might be 500 to 1,000, maybe 1,500. If it's not, beat to shit. That eats into, your margins and stuff like that. That's taken away a couple months profit on each unit. So yeah, keeping that person in and keeping them paying, even if it's not, 100% for the next couple months until they get back on their feet or until they get certain checks and things like that. It's not ideal, and you don't want to create a new norm. Like, you don't want every single person doing that. But in extreme cases like this, I think you have to.
Well, the unfortunate thing is too, the rental pool out there, we don't know what it consists of right now, because this has never happened before. So, I don't know who's going to be renting next. I think they're saying that unemployment's at 15% right now.
Yeah.
Do you believe that number?
I see no reason not to believe it. I don't know if it's like a true representation of what it is today, if it's delayed, if there's, people that are taking advantage of the system and, applying when they shouldn't be, or there's people that, I don't really know. I don't think anybody knows, but I think it's got to be pretty damn close. I mean, the amount of companies that are getting hurt and the amount of people that are out of work, it seems to make sense.
Well, I was thinking higher personally.
Yeah.
I was thinking more of the 25-30% personally, because I don't know how they're counting furloughed workers, because furloughed workers technically aren't out of work. They're just not working right now. So
yeah, I think they use jobless claims, and I think furloughed workers technically fall under that purview. So
okay.
I believe, this is the stuff where we were talking
Yeah,
about before we got
I
on
know.
and recorded, where it's like you want to know the answers before you give it to other people. I'm fairly confident though that I think, they are eligible for the unemployment because we don't know when people are going to go back to work. So they technically, I think it's just like an agreement saying like, hey, we're not firing you, but you're on extended leave where we're not paying you, which is basically unemployed. But it's like, hey, when we can, we'll give you your job back. So it's
Right.
almost like 6 one, half a dozen the other. You're basically unemployed, but you just got a hot lead for a job when you can. So yeah, I think it's probably delayed. I'm sure the infrastructure too. I've heard so many people can't even get through, can't even get their unemployment status filed properly. So you know, I don't know when, like, they just released today, like, what was it, like 5.5 million new people or 5 million new people. I don't know what dates that is. I don't think it's like Thursday to Thursday. I'm sure it's like Monday to Monday. So you've got an extra 4 days going forward. I'm sure there's tons of people delayed. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to still go up. I wouldn't be shocked if it gets into that 20-25% range.
Yeah, and then we've got the ramp up when and if this does end, which of course it will, but we've got that ramp up period now. I guess China's. I'm not a big news watcher or
Mhm.
reader. I just kind of pick up snippets, as I found it depresses me. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good.
But I guess China's having a lot of ramp up problems. They're still having a hard time getting people back to work, and of course, raw goods and things like that are slow to get the supply chains and everything. So I'm just curious, and obviously no one knows. I wonder what our ramp up's going to be to get back up to speed. It could be a year, to get back up to full speed.
Yeah, I think, everyone keeps talking about the shape of the recovery, whether it's a V, whether it's a U, whether it's an
Right.
L.
Or W.
Yeah, W. I'm more of the mind it's going to be a little bit of a U, but I think our recovery is going to be, if you said our recovery went from 0 to 100, 100 being right where we were beforehand, 0 being the bottom, I think we probably hit, 60, 70% back to it pretty quickly. I think that last 25, 30, 40% is going to take several months to a year, maybe even a year and a half to get that last little juice up to where we were. I think a lot of jobs will bounce back very quickly because, as soon as Disney opens up their parks, they need workers, right? Those jobs are going to be there. Even if they're not at full capacity, the day Disney opens, there's going to be at least one person there. So they need people working.
Right.
So like those jobs will be back very quickly. I know as soon as the bars are going to be open in New York, I'm probably going to go. So there better be a bartender there.
Yeah.
So you are going to, things like that, I think will ramp up. But yeah, I mean, for the time it's going to take a shopping mall to be up to full capacity, or, a Macy's to get to full capacity, or any store where you need, full staff, the whole day and everything. Yeah, I think that's going to take 6 to 12 months. And it may even take, it could take 3 to 12 months once we get a vaccine. It just depends how confident people are going out and stuff like that. So
It's
um,
it's gonna it's gonna be a while. I'm pretty confident. I see people the way they are now. Just people, their demeanor when they walk down the street now. I was actually down at the beach on Sunday.
mhm,
Some older lady walked by me, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were not practicing 6 foot. We were just walking,
mhm.
and she went off onto the side of the walk, and kind of up on a hillside, and started yelling at us basically. And I had no idea what she was yelling about, and she wanted us to go to the other side of the sidewalk as we walked past her. And that right there just kind of imprinted on me that it's going to be a long while before everything's back to normal again. People are going to be, for the next year or so, I think people are going to be a little leery of anybody coughing or walking next to them or anything. It's going to be weird.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be. And it was very interesting today. The guy who we recorded the podcast with actually contracted the virus and was very sick and in the hospital for a number of days and has recovered now. So it was very interesting to hear him talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, he said, he was like, yeah, he basically said, I thought I was going to die. That's how sick he was. So yeah, I think as more and more people start to, like we were talking about this too, like you have a sphere of influence and like you care about the things that come into your sphere. Like that's why most people don't, pay attention to the things that happen on the other side of the world and, genocide and these tragedies, because we care about our sphere. And now this virus is starting to creep into it. And then deeper and deeper it comes in where, people, are getting affected and sick. And, the first person, that unfortunately passes away from it, you're going to start taking things way more seriously and be more scared because of it. And I think that's only going to continue to get worse. It's not like if we flatten the curve, deaths are going to stop, or we start going down, deaths are going to stop. If we start opening back up, that's going to come back up, right? Like from everything I'm understanding, the social distancing, the flattening and everything is just to keep that cases at any given time below the capacity of what healthcare can properly take care of, so that your mortality rate doesn't go through the roof. Right. So we're still going to be dealing with people getting sick and unfortunately passing away for the rest of the year. So as more and more people, get sick and probably pass away, people are definitely going to become more jittery. So yeah, I agree 100%.
So the question is, as real estate investors, is number one, how can we help? And number two, how can we, I hate to say take advantage of, but I mean, everybody that's on here is an investor or wants to be an investor. What are the opportunities that are going to arise from this, and how can we best take part in that?
Yeah.
And I know you've thought about it, obviously.
It's all we're thinking about constantly.
Yeah, at great length. I stay up in the middle of it. I get up in the middle of the night and, I'm jotting things down. So what are your plans, just roughly? I'm not, sorry, I don't mean to hijack the interview.
No, go for it. I love it. Back and forth questions are important. It's so tough to say right now. We're multifamily focused really. So, if we were in hotel or retail, I'd probably have a different answer for you, because you're already seeing distressed opportunities.
Yeah.
I don't know how distressed multifamily is going to get, because you are always going to have tenants unless there's mass exodus of people moving back in with their family. Even then, you're still going to always have demand. It's really going to depend what happens with one of my fears right now, where we were just talking, is if this quarantine lasts for months and months and months, and we were talking about the stimulus packages, if they're anticipating, let's say, the $600 a week for the next 4 months for 15 million people for that time period, but then we get up to 30 million people and it goes 6 months and they run out of money, then we're going to be screwed. And then it's really going to be, okay, what starts happening in June, July, August, and how are these properties going to perform? If we go 3 months, we start slowly unraveling the country, we can stay below where we need to stay. Unemployment goes back down into the 4 to 6% range. Some people are going to hurt, for sure. There's still going to be opportunities. I just don't think it's going to be this crazy bidding war where you're going to be able to just pluck any deal out of the air and figure it out.
No, I agree. It all depends on how long it takes to get a cure and a vaccine, and then to get back up to speed. And those are absolute. I mean, I'd bet more on the vaccine than the ramp up to get business back to normal, because I don't think we're going to hit normal for a long time. Personally, I look at what's going on right now, and I can see certain businesses that'll jump right back. I think the bar business will get big. But at the same time, I think there's going to be a pretty good percentage of people that stay out of the bars after this too. So, we'll see what happens. Retail alcohol sales are up 50% right now. A lot of that has to do with people that go to bars a lot, not going to bars, but how many alcoholics are we propagating? And there's just so many weird variables going on right now. And how many people are going to stay working at home? I have an office I go to almost every day. Do I really need it now?
Yeah.
We've been floating along for 3 weeks without it. I come in every day just because I want to get out of the house, but nobody else comes in.
Yeah, no, I know that's been a big discussion point of I saw one study early on, and it was talking about the work from home trend, and it was 0% in 2005. And then I think they said in 2015 or 16 or 17, something like that. It was 10 or 15 years later. I forget what they said. It was up to 2.5% nationwide, give or take. Could have been 2, could have been 3. I forget exactly, but it wasn't a crazy impact. But then they were saying like, now so many people are actually giving it a taste and giving it a try and having to do it. And a lot of people are going to realize it could make a lot of sense for part of your staff or all of your staff or a lot of your business. So, I think the office sector is definitely going to feel it to a certain degree. I don't know how much. And I think each market's going to be different. It's so going to depend on what you do. Like, office buildings in New York, probably more stable than office buildings in a, tertiary city. I would think so.
I totally agree. But I feel something changing though. The funny thing, I've been talking to a lot of people like you have. I've been doing a lot of Zoom and the funny thing is people are getting, people always talk about they can't concentrate at home and everything, but most people I'm talking to find that they can get done in 2 or 3 hours what normally took them all day at the office at home. So it's almost opposite world of what you would think. You would think that, I'm home, I can't focus, I've got this going on, that going on. But because they're home, they want to get it done with, unless they've got meetings or something they have to attend to. But if they've got tasks, they get them done faster. So I'm finding that a very interesting thing because that would mean that you would get more out of your people if they were working at home, if that was the case.
Yeah, I think a fear was always like, people have a easier ability to slack off at home because there's no one watching directly over them. But if you've got tasks you've got to do and you don't get them done, you're going to quickly realize they can't handle it. I know for me, I always felt I couldn't get work done from home. I think what has changed for me though is like, if I did one day from home, I would always think like, it's one day. If I don't get everything done, I'm going into the office on Monday. I can get it done then or the next day or whatever. But now that it's an extended period, it's like, it's just another normal day. So I think I don't think I would be good as a type of person to do it like part one way, like partly in the office, partly work from home. Because I think there's something that triggers for me when I go to the office. I get in my car, I go to the office, I get there and it's like, okay, I'm here to work.
Yeah, me too.
So I think for me personally, I could never do one. I would have to do one or the other. I couldn't do, partial because I think I would find excuses not to do work sometimes. But yeah, I think a lot of people are going to realize it's very different from what they thought. I think a lot of people too, I struggle with this personally. I'm fairly tech savvy. Like I pick things up very quickly. I can figure it out. And, even more so than a lot of people my age or younger. And then I always forget that not many people 5 years older than me even, and way beyond, grew up with this sort of thing. So it's not even as secondhand nature to them. So I often have to remind myself that a lot of this stuff isn't second nature for people. It's not easy for them to pick up a new technology. It's not easy for them to understand Zoom calls. It's not easy for them to understand social media or email or, all this stuff. I think being forced to now use it, a lot of people are going to understand that it wasn't nearly as hard as they thought it was going to be. And it's not nearly as scary as they presumed it was going to be. And a lot more people are going to be open to that stuff, where in the past, they didn't want to do, Zoom, meetings with clients or internally and stuff like that. Yeah. Now that they've been forced to, they're like, oh, no big deal. Now it's just a new norm for them. So I could see that playing a big part as well.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up because I'm 57 and it's really tough for me to pick up tech stuff. I mean, give me a hammer, I'll build you a house. I'm damn good at that. And it's a talent. I know it is. I can lead people, but technology, I forget. And I think my brain just shuts off and says, you know what, Mark, I don't want to put that in there and, you're going to do something else. And thankfully I've got a good support group, but I noticed when there was nobody in the office, there was, several days there that I'd come to work and I'd start doing stuff and I'd go, she's not here, man.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I mean, even just, this is now I think the 15th day that I've done this. And, there's some people that, didn't understand how like IG Live works, didn't understand how to do Zoom as though it's, because this is a little bit of a complicated setup to get this going where, we're doing it simultaneously, not only on Instagram Live, but recording it on Zoom for later. You you seem to have a very good understanding right away. So to hear you say that, I think is, surprising, or you've just, you've worked out the kinks already and I'm the beneficiary of it. But
well, I've done enough of this that,
yeah.
I mean, I've been, been doing this for, a while now, but beyond that. So, a lot of the apps and programs we use, cause Sauce and I spend most of our time wholesaling and finding properties that we either take on as more rentals or we sell to other investors. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of apps, there's a lot of things that we use that I have a rudimentary understanding of, and that's it. That's it. Yeah. I often go, how does this one work again?
Yeah, no, I hear
I know
you.
I pay the bill every month, but
there you go. We just got a question. I think it'll be interesting to ask it. What do you see as the potential of this pandemic? What are the pros and cons, and where do you see each and every market going? You want to kick it off and just kind of give your thoughts on that? I mean, I know we touched on it a little bit, but maybe just recover and expand on it.
Yeah, I will actually. So, well, obviously the cons are that it lasts for a long time and property mm-hmm. values sink so low that the gains that we've gotten since the recession are eliminated for the most part. Mm-hmm. And if that happens, there's going to be most investors getting out of the game. I think if we get back to pre-recessionary post-recessionary pricing, so let's just say the apartments I was buying in Sacramento get back down to the $25,000 or $30,000 a door price tag, and they're at 125 to 135 now. That's going to be devastating. So yeah, I'll survive as long as, thankfully the rents didn't really drop in Sacramento. But we've had such a run up in rent prices since then that I'm afraid we will drop this time. So those are the negatives. The negatives mm-hmm. are right now, a lot of the people that own small businesses, there's a lot of those small businesses that won't be coming back. And so that affects everybody. That affects supply chains. It affects raw goods. It affects so many different aspects of business. And we're going to feel that one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And it's going to trickle down into rentals, I think. And it could trickle down into prices. And if I'm hoping, in the perfect world, things drop, 20, 25%. I can scoop up, 20 or 30, either single family homes, duplex, triplex, the things that I specialize in. And I'm good to go. But my fear is that it goes further than that. And if it goes further than that, then we will go beyond recession into depression, and that would be bad. Mm-hmm. So, but the good things that will happen from it are people that are investors, which I'm assuming everybody here is or wants to be. There will be a lot of opportunity. There's already opportunity. So because we approach sellers, we don't wait for things to come to the MLS. We're already getting things for 50 or 60 cents on the dollar. Mm-hmm. MLS is not reflecting that yet.
Yeah.
But the people that are selling right now that are really wanting to sell are selling for 50 to 60 cents on the dollar. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to find, don't get me wrong, but we're seeing those kinds of prices right now. But,
yeah. I think when I read that question, the first thing I want to point out is you can't say where each and every market is going to go. Every market's going to be different. Like you said, how badly did small business get impacted? How badly did retail? How badly did, hospitality get affected? What was your supply and demand like beforehand? How much new development did you have in the pipeline? What was your city's response to all of this stuff? I mean, you can't paint the country with a broad brush, let alone the world. So I think there's too much that goes into it to really, talk about every single market. They're all going to be different. And,
agreed.
A 10,000 person market versus, a 5 million person market, they're going to respond very differently as well. So I think that's important. I think too, yeah, I think the only thing that I see a little differently, I don't see rents dropping a crazy amount. The only reason is
I don't either, by the way.
Okay. And the reason I say that is because we've had a housing supply and demand issue for several years in this country, not only just on the affordable side, but just nationwide.
Mhm.
And we've also seen more people trend towards being renters than homeowners. I don't necessarily see that changing either. So if there's more demand than supply, it's only naturally going to continue to go up or stay level. So,
Mhm.
maybe in the short term, we see a little drop or just a flattening. I kind of see it once we get back to, call, if you want to, I don't understand GDP as much. So I'm going to use unemployment. Once we get
Mhm.
unemployment back in that, call 4 to 7% range, I see it kind of, being back where it was and some decent but steady growth going forward. So whether that's the end of this year, middle of next year, who really knows? But I kind of see that. Where I do see it happening is I think valuations are going to be affected going forward from a cap rate standpoint, because if we just think about it from the standpoint of there was X amount of dollars looking to go into the market in the next 2 years before this happened, let's say.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, like you said, now all these businesses have gone out, all these supply chains have gone down. There's capital that's going to be going into these things that's taking away from the table. So again, it's the supply and demand. The reason cap rates have continued to go down is because, there's been a ton of demand and there's only
Right.
so much supply.
Right.
Now, as a lot of that demand goes away, again, there's still going to be the same amount of supply for the most part, except right now because transactions have gone down significantly, at least in our space.
Yeah.
You're
Here
going to
too.
see, people are going to be able to pick and choose a little bit more. It's not going to be as much of a seller's market, which we've seen. I don't really like using seller's market because I feel like that's a more residential term, but
Yeah, I agree.
it still applies to a certain degree. I just think people are going to be able to be more choosy on what they pursue after. And you're just going to see that reflected a little bit. Also, too, who knows where the debt world's going to be in, the next 3, 6, 12, 18 months. And for
You,
commercial real
you,
estate, you're so reliant upon, where debt is and, where you can take your cap rates and stuff. So that's a big factor too.
yeah, that's kind of what I was going to ask. You know, the the money that was lost in the stock market. Now, how much has that bounced back? I apologize. I haven't looked in just a few
So
days. So.
it's interesting. I don't know what the top was. I'll pull it up really quickly, but I know the Dow was at like 23,000, give or take, and it was as low as 18.5.
Okay.
And I think it was at like 28 or 29. So it's bounced back a fair bit.
Yeah.
Um, you know, maybe like if it was down 30%, it might have recovered to only down. Oh wow, the futures are up big right now. So we've had a fair amount of recovery there.
Which is amazing in and of itself because, well, the good thing about that though is that I was concerned that because of all that cash, you know, disappearing from a lot of people that have, money to lend, because a lot of lenders put their money in their short term, and of course that dropped so precipitously. I think a lot of people lost a lot of lending power there, but it's come back up so quickly. Um, I I'm kind of in awe of the entire thing because, and I don't understand the market very well. I'm more of a single family kind of real estate guy, pretty simple. But for it to come back so quickly when we're not really manufacturing anything anymore, and a lot of things have come to a halt, I find it very curious. And the fact that real estate hasn't really dropped much at this point, I find that very curious too.
mhm. Yeah, well, I think, and maybe it's different for you. I mean, I know right now, if any deal tried to sell that wasn't already in contract, your purchase price is just going to be down probably 10 to 20% at least, just
Yeah,
because the opportunity cost, the risk is now significantly higher. You need a higher potential reward or return.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's still a little early for that. I think if any deals sold, like there's plenty of deals trying to be sold right now for 4 and 5 caps, and we're just laughing at people
yeah.
trying to sell them. So there is that to a certain degree. By the way, just I looked it up. The Dow was at 29,400, dropped down to 19,400, and now it's back up at like 24,000. So yeah, it's been a pretty hefty recovery, that's for sure.
It's
But
come
no,
back,
yeah,
come back halfway. That's amazing.
yeah. I do wonder though, if this does trickle on, like we're talking about for 3 to 9 months, if it almost felt like maybe there was an overcorrection and now it's come back. I could see it steadily coming down further potentially. Who knows though? I mean, that's total speculation.
I agree, but it does make sense that this is more of a W than we dropped so much, we've come back up. I don't know. I'm no expert, but it just feels like it needs to happen again. And, quite frankly, I don't think anybody disagrees that things were getting a little pricey there for a while and we needed to put the brakes on. I don't think we necessarily needed to drop, but just a leveling off. I mean, I don't know if you follow Rick Jarman at all. Real Estate Old School. He's
yes, I do. I didn't actually know his name. I just know his handle.
Oh, Rick. Yeah. He's always saying that, I would like it just to get back to normal, and back to normal would mean it's a buyer and a seller market. If you've got something you want to sell and I want to buy it, that's a level playing field. And then there's going to be someone over here that really wants someone. But a normal real estate market where there's give and take rather than the massive highs and lows that we've experienced over the last, 15, 20 years. And we've seen those a lot over, throughout history, but it's been especially like that for the last 15 years, probably. We saw that big run up in 2006, 2007, and obviously the big recession drop. And it's doing the exact same thing here now. And we're calling it, COVID-19, but I kept thinking there was a ticking time bomb that was waiting to go off there too. And that's why we're so darn careful about what we buy and how we buy it.
Yeah.
And I know you are too.
We try to be, at least, to the best of our ability. Yeah. I tend to agree. I think a lot of people were looking for, the catalyst to create a downturn. And that's probably what created such a dramatic drop in the market. Obviously, I think real estate is a significantly slower moving target than the stock market, which we saw. Everybody in the market plummeted March 1st, and for those 2 weeks, every real estate investor, 50% of them were, oh, the stock market's the worst, you should be in real estate. And then 2 weeks later, everybody's tone started to change. So I thought that was very interesting to see. I agree a lot. I think we see things very similarly, and I think it was interesting to hear it from your viewpoint as well, just in a slightly different area, slightly different niche, different viewpoint, different, life experiences, stuff like that. But I think that's a really great place to wrap it up. Obviously anybody watching this on Instagram can just click the little bubble and go check you out if they don't already follow you. But for the people that happen to be watching this recorded on YouTube, where can they learn more about you? Where can they follow you? Where can they get in touch with you?
Mark McMahon Real Estate on Instagram and Mark McMahon on YouTube. I think there's only 2 of us on YouTube that pop up when you, I'll be the older gentleman.
There you go.
So, everything else I'm on is just kind of hit and miss, but
gotcha.
That's pretty much where I'm at. And for you, where are you at?
Yeah, Chris Grenzig. You just search it everywhere. If you want to email me, chris@tororep.com, I'll get back to you within 24 hours. DM me on Instagram at chris.grenzig. I'll get back to you within 24 hours, if not sooner. Awesome. Yeah, I think that was great. You got any final thoughts, words of wisdom, questions you're trying to answer that you want to leave us off with?
I think the biggest thing I'm getting right now is people are asking awful lot. I mean, every day, and I'm sure you're getting the same thing, is it a good time right now? And I think you'll agree with me when I say it's always a good time if the deal's right. If it cash flows and it's right, it doesn't matter if it goes up or down. More than likely it'll cash flow if it goes down. And it'll certainly cash flow if it goes up. So, it's so tempting to try to time this stuff. And I've got people that were asking me before, and probably you've experienced the same thing. Should I wait till it drops? And it's like, well, you can if you want to, but if a good deal comes along, I jump on it. And now they're asking, okay, it's dropping now. What should I do now? When should I do it? So it's like they wanted it to drop. Now they want it to drop a little bit more, and I understand that. But after doing this for so many years, I never stop buying. and I don't buy a ton, but I'm always looking. I'm always shopping. So
good deal is a good deal is a good deal.
Right. Agreed.
Awesome.
Right,
Mark, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it. Anybody watching on IG, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. Be sure to go check out both our channels and subscribe and see some other stuff. So that's it from us. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you guys.